My name is Dean Gios.
Well, hi, my name is Adrian Reyes.
My name is Aska.
I'm Chris.
My name is Ashley Gon.
My name is Anthony Barrientos. Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Howe.
My name is Al.
My name is Diet.
I'm Zavi. Can you introduce yourself and a bit about your journey?
Sure. My name is Dean Gios, and I use he, they pronouns. I identify as a proud two-spirit pansexual transgender man. My journey's been pretty recent. I only started my transition about 6 years ago, and so it's been most of my life that I was trying to conform to the female identity that I was given 30 plus years. It was a struggle just because when I came out, when I was younger, I knew things were different, that I was different, but no one ever said the word transgender until like late teens, early 20s. So I just tried to fit in as best as I could because nobody would choose to be bullied. No one's going to choose to be discriminated or harassed. When I tried to do the things that felt good for me, though, when I was a kid, I was always met with a lot of, you can't do that. It's only little boys do that. Little girls don't do that. What's wrong with you? Be more ladylike. And when you hear those things and you're a little kid trying to do fun stuff, you do start to think that there is something wrong with you. Like you are broken and, nobody else understands you. So how are you even supposed to understand what you're feeling? So it was a very lonely place for a very long time.
Well, hi, my name is Adrian Reyes. I am a transgender woman, proud trans Pinay, as we call it. I am from the Philippines and I moved here to Canada 15 years ago. And when I moved to Canada, that's when I started my transition. Coming in here with my family, with a hope of finding a better life. Canada has been very welcoming to the trans community. We've got medical help. We've got peer support groups that helped me to become the woman I am today.
My name is Aska. I use they, them pronouns. I am an artist and I also work in community, specifically in the areas of health and education. I would say that my environment growing up was pretty limiting and constricting and often had a lot of discrimination and stigma against different people and what body they were born in at birth, which really shouldn't define what people are allowed or not allowed to do with their lives because the body that they were born in at birth is not their choice. Because of this discrimination and stigma that I faced in my environment growing up as a person who works in community, I try and create safer spaces for people to feel like they can be their authentic self without judgment or discrimination.
I'm Chris. I use he, they pronouns. Part of my journey has been kind of going through my life and looking back at it and recognizing what I needed to change to make myself more comfortable. A lot of years I was comfortable with myself as a child. I was a very masculine child. I did a lot of masculine typical things. That was what was comfortable for me. But once I hit middle school, I felt the societal pressure to be more feminine and I guess project myself in a way that was softer for other people to be able to handle. And so I got really into makeup and I felt like I had to hide myself behind my hair and my makeup and all this so I could present in a way that other people wanted. And it felt like someone was sitting on my shoulder, constantly dictating what I had to say, what I had to look like, who I had to be. I had to hide away because I needed to be who the small town person, typical woman needed to be.
My name's Ashley Gon. I use she, they pronouns. I'm a woman of a trans experience. I grew up in a rural area and spent a lot of time like in, a kind of a farming-ish community in West Nickel. So during the 80s, there was the gay F word was thrown around a lot. So that just kind of drove me more in the closet and being somewhat effeminate, assigned male at birth. It encouraged resilience in me. And specifically when my brother had a head injury, I had to advocate for him a lot because of what had happened to him. And just there's a lot of ignorance that seems to be perpetuated in rural areas. So that kind of drove me to become more educated around issues that were more of a nuanced kind of thing, right?
My name is Anthony Barrientos. I'm 30 years old. I also identify as a transgender woman. I go by she, her, they, them pronouns. I'm still in the beginning stages of my transition. Like I'm 6 months into HRT. I'm trying to get into the clinic program, which will give me access to like the education and the support I need.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessie Kahal. I am a trans woman working as a trans health nurse at the clinic. So we run the program there to accepting all clients on all aspects of LGBTQ wanting to be on hormones and medically transition. So I'm one of the nurses there and the only trans nurse works there. So I help them medically and actually everything aspects of transitioning through being an inspiration to those young ones especially. So
my name is Elle. I am 34. Had to think about that. I didn't really come to terms with my trans identity until basically the beginning of pandemic. So, roughly around 2019, 2020 was when my egg started to crack a little bit. I had always attributed my more quote unquote feminine traits to being what I thought was a homosexual man, and that wasn't even that at all. Or it's even in the queer mask spec identity sense, that wasn't what was contributing to it. It was more so just not really being typically masculine or masculine by societal definitions. So it was just okay, so what does this mean for me? Am I trans? Am I trans enough? I didn't feel the need to medically transition or physically transition, but I feel identity wise and I guess a bigger shift for me was gender presentation and pronouns, which for me is inconsequential as a Filipino person who, learned that there are masculine and feminine pronouns in the English language. Those were, I guess, the bigger switches of what actually just feeling whether or not I was trans enough or if I even felt comfortable about claiming a trans identity or being a trans person.
Okay, well, first of all, mabuhay. My name is Diet. My pronouns are he, they, and siya. I am the organizers of the Bahaghari Pride Manitoba. It's one of the first Filipino organization that will cater to the members of the 12 LGBTQIA+ Filipino community. First, I was born in the Philippines. I came here in May 2015 as a immigrant and a member of 12 LGBTQI+. It was not an easy journey for me. Every journey is unique for sure. And a lot of people have a different experience in it. My journey was not easy. Even though I am an openly gay person, they are still trying to tell me maybe it's just a phase, maybe it's just a choice.
Hi, I'm Zavi, 27 years old. I've been transitioning for probably about 4 years openly now. It's been an interesting journey for sure. First moments where I remember I was definitely not the male I thought I was. Probably 7 years old, just filling my shirts, trying to augment what a woman would look like. And I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, that's me. That's who I'm supposed to be. As I got older, the dysphoria got worse and worse. And I eventually just, whenever I looked in the mirror, I kind of want to spit at it. Didn't like it. Wasn't right. So the first time that a friend of mine helped me just dress feminine, he showed me that I was right. I'm not a male. And I make a very beautiful woman. And ever since then, I've just slowly, I'd say I just do it without fear. I just dress who I'm supposed to be, and I slowly transition medically. But there was a lot of fear underneath. It was a very slow journey of not only taking pride in who I am as a person, but to not worry about what other people might say or think. It's been long, but I'm very, very glad for where I've gotten.
What challenges would you say you have faced to live more authentically?
I think for me, I really understood that society wasn't very accepting in a lot of different ways. You know, when I came out first as a lesbian, I even thought that that was doing a disservice to lesbians because I didn't truly feel like a girl who liked other girls. When I came out as a lesbian, I lost a lot of my biological family because they couldn't understand that aspect. And so I knew when I was starting to think about transitioning, I knew that was going to put a really big concern in regards to what the other half of my biological family would think and what my friends would think, what my workplace would think. I really had to come to terms with the understanding that I feel like transitioning is a radical form of self-love that not a lot of people get to experience. But in that self-love, you have to come to the conclusion that you might lose a lot of family or friends or lose your job even. But to choose yourself, to choose your own happiness and your own love was the big step for me. It was about loving myself more than letting the hate not get through. So I think the transition alone was a big step. I did end up losing a lot more of my biological family because of that. I ended up having to leave the job I was at the time. So everything kind of worked out the way I had expected. But at the end of the day, when I finally transitioned, I realized that I thought I was happy before, but I wasn't. I was just pretending to be. I was playing a persona of a character I thought society would accept more than who I actually authentically was. So for me, it was the right decision.
So, being a transgender woman, I've experienced obviously a lot of ups and downs. One of the major things that I think that I kind of like snap and like an awakening moment for me to fight for trans right is when I was in a bathroom before, I was called out for not being woman enough to be there, or I don't feel comfortable going to which bathroom. I speak to my teacher in high school, in Sisler High School. Shout out to Mr. Shedden for giving me the courage to talk to the principal and to the Winnipeg School Division to ask for a gender neutral bathroom. So I'm very happy and proud to say that I am a pioneer in Sisler High School to be able to put up a gender neutral bathroom in there. And I am very happy to say as well that many people, especially my sister who happens to be trans woman as well, was able to use that bathroom and was comfortable.
When trying to live as my authentic self, there have been a lot of challenges along the way. But I would say that all of them come from this rooted belief that we can't be understood. I think that a lot of the challenges that I faced have come from a place of lack of understanding, lack of willingness to understand, willingness to grow, lack of empathy, or really humanity. I think that kind of feeling then turns into discrimination, and discrimination in practice that excludes people and can really cause a lot of harm. Whether that's harm in forms of bullying or harassment or discrimination, or whether there are larger harms like on the systemic level where people are excluded from accessing services or supports like healthcare or education, immigration, and their identity suddenly has a role in what rights they have is really harmful. And that's something that unfortunately trans people have had to face in society. There have been a lot of community members and people who are gender and sexually diverse that have been harmed just by people's mentality.
It wasn't until I moved to the city that I started trying to become more myself. I was just constantly irritated at how I looked, and I felt really uncomfortable all the time and what people expected me to wear and stuff. I started university, and with that, I guess I started unmasking as well. It was easier to become what was comfortable, and I didn't feel the need to hide myself as much. Something that made me a lot more elated was when I shaved my head the first time. The amount of just heaviness that lifted was outrageous. It was like I never was what I wanted to be. And then when I shaved my head, I just felt like this is who I am. This is how I'm comfortable.
I kind of grew up in a traumatic kind of family, so it was easy to sell myself out and what I thought I needed and stuff. I'm a reformed people pleaser, or struggling with that, specifically around coming out and authentically living as myself. I had a lot of trouble kind of suppressing that, so specifically when I gave myself permission to do that and like recognize that in myself, it was a little easier, but it was also extremely difficult to kind of work through a lot of those layers, and also like how I felt that I could authentically bring myself or be myself within a situation, because I think, as the others had mentioned before, like we're always going through transitions, right? And to me, that was something that was really predominant in my life. Like I'm not the same person as when I said, obviously, but like there's various transitions and various periods of my life where I felt that, oh, there's a change coming about kind of thing. So specifically when I decided to medically transition, I was taking charge. I was taking more agency and autonomy over my sovereign being and in my expression. And just like I'd already built up a lot of resilience around bullies and things like that. Like I really don't care what people think about me, but also I do care, right? So there's that double-edged sword kind of thing. But yeah.
I guess there's challenges into seeking gender affirming care, because a lot of people don't know, like when they're trying to get on hormones or stuff like that, they have to go through this process. I was able to find a doctor that was able to prescribe me hormones on the spot, because he really understood on a day-to-day basis. Like when I look in the mirror, I suffer from dysphoria, gender dysphoria.
I am like an out queer person. I came from a strict Muslim family, and living in a Muslim household is really hard because they are really like tough and against even being gay. With my dad, actually, he's really open-minded and loving dad, but being in the head of, it's called Moro National Liberation Front, one of the government Muslim-headed government organization in the Philippines. I'm kind of like shy or scared to be out there because he might get the other end of the stick. So I hid myself the whole time. Just being gay inside in my own four corners of the wall was so hard. It just felt so dark and alone by myself. And I can be like, my real me outside the world.
Previously mentioned, there's like kind of a lot of gatekeeping that goes around in our community. For context, I identify as demigender. So I am kind of like in a gender flux situation where sometimes I feel like I'm cis adjacent, and oftentimes I feel kind of like agender. Mostly the barriers that I faced, or that like the difficulties around that, are trying to get people to understand that like our umbrella is truly an umbrella. It's not just you have to be a certain way or have to check like XYZ box to identify as something. Like gender is such an expansive context that we, even if we don't have a label for it, we can make room for those. And that's what I love about like, as insignificant and as it may seem, like having the asterisk on the trans part of like the word trans really gives it more opportunity for growth and, as previously stated, like expansion, like inclusion. By physical standards, I look like a cis male, but I think it's also like from both ends of like dealing with cisgender and heterosexual people who are like, oh, like you're a man, and I'm like, actually no, I'm not that. And then going to our community, the queer community, and being like, well, you're cis, and I'm like, actually no, I'm also not that. So it's kind of facing backlash from both communities, especially in the greater queer/gay male community.
I have faced discrimination too, especially when it comes to work. There are a lot of theories in there. Like, as an Asian person and as a member of the queer community. So I don't know which one. So if someone is treating me something unfair, so I don't know, either it's because I'm Asian or it's because I am a member of the queer community, right? So, or both. I don't know. So there's a lot of anxiety in there. It's too much burden.
Most of those challenges have been a very even mix between non-allies and myself. A lot of my own challenges were just how I think about myself, wondering how other people would look at me, think about me, what they would say about me. Because I wasn't always obviously so feminine. I was very masculine. But just thinking about what others might think about me and their possible dislike is probably one of the biggest challenges. The second, dating. Horrible. For at least 3 years straight, people just didn't look at me like a human. They looked at me like some kind of kink. Something to conquer. Ooh, I've always wanted to try this. So yeah, the second challenge would be like being able to just be recognized as human like any other woman.
What advice would you give someone from the trans community about transcending fear and adversity?
I talk to a lot of kids, and they always ask me, how do I come out to my family? How do I talk to them and get them to accept me? At the end of the day, the biggest piece of advice I can give is your safety is paramount. Your safety is the most important thing. And if your safety is something that would be taken away from sharing that information, then you need to protect that. And just because you don't end up coming out to people or don't end up transitioning in the way you want to, that doesn't make you any less awesome. You're still your amazing human being that you are. And, eventually you'll be able to get there and you'll find the right people. You'll find what I like to call your chosen family. And those people will love and support you no matter what. So yeah, just protect your safety because that's really important.
So I joined the biggest transgender pageant in the world, which is the Miss International Queen, hoping to be heard and to be seen, not just by the people all over the world, but also the community. With my advocacy, trans visibility, hopefully I get to inspire a lot of trans brothers and sisters out there. It won't be easy, I've, again, experienced a lot of hardship being a transgender woman, but as long as you surround yourself with people who truly cares for you, that you can be your authentic self, I think that it would be easier to be the person that you are. I think the best advice I could give is that you have to accept yourself first. Because if you accept yourself, everything will fall into place.
Fear and adversity are real in a world that tries to erase you. And I think that it's really important that we know that we are valued and important and we deserve to be ourselves and an authentic version of ourselves in a world that doesn't want to learn how to be accepting of diversity. If you look around you, there's diversity everywhere, and your presence in the world just adds to that. And the world would be a better place with people that are capable of kind of growth and compassion that gender and sexually diverse people are able to have. It's also really important to know what works for you and what makes you happy and what regulates your nervous system, and to collect all of those as resources or tools for yourself when you are feeling like you're going through a hard time. Knowing whether you need alone time or company or a good meal, sharing a laugh with people, journaling or listening to music, going on a walk, what works for you, and lean on those things when you need them, and find community and find people like you, because you're not alone. When you have all of those things, you can get through it, and you are capable and deserving, and the world is a better place with you.
I think that there's a lot of power in believing in knowing who you are. Because you can be afraid And that's totally valid. Like, I'm not going to discredit anybody's fear. It's scary. Life is scary. People are scary. But you got to know that deep down, you know what you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah, so just to work on your inner transphobia, because society perpetuates a lot of that and a lot of undoing. Gender is kind of silly anyways, but it's also important because like that's how I found myself, and how I learned to express myself was through my femininity and things like that.
I guess to just have pride in yourself, to be openly vulnerable and like expressive and just be living and honest with yourself. I think that's what pride means, to be unafraid of showing your true authentic self. And I see joy in that. And I hope other people can see that too.
Self-love is a big word, and it's really important to everybody. Self-love means being brave. Self-love means knowing what steps to take on the right timing, knowing everyone or knowing where to find help or support, just to support your self-love and to love yourself and to just be who you really are, authentically self.
Cool. From my very limited experience in our current trans community, in our local trans community, all I can really say is just be yourself. I know it sounds trite. I know it sounds like everybody says it's just be yourself, do the right thing, or like try not to be afraid. And it's easier said than done. I think your people, the people who will love and accept you as you are, will gravitate towards you if you're approaching your engagement with community with sincerity and with authenticity. I found my closest friends by doing that, by being what other people might define as like messy or annoying. But I found that just by being open and being myself and finding comfort in those social spaces has really allowed me to make lasting and worthwhile connections. So that's the only advice I can really share, is that, you know, be yourself and know that the time will come, that your people will come, and that your confidence will grow in yourself.
When we find our own voice, we can keep moving forward. And when we get the hold and control of our own voice, no other word, not even people's opinions about us, can break our heart. Because we know who we are. Outside that, it's just words that cannot hurt us anymore. I also believe that like Adrian said earlier, the trans is beautiful. If you're gonna ask me, I believe everyone is a trans person. Because as long as we breathe, as long as we live, we keep transitioning in this life. Mindfully, physically, romantically, logically, and emotionally. Everything is transitioning. So I think there's nothing wrong with being a trans person, as an ally or as a member.
Believe in yourself. Only you know who the authentic you is. So what anybody else might think, say, tell you, you know who you are. Believe in yourself. I identify as a proud two-spirit pansexual transgender man.
I am a transgender woman.
My name is Aska. I use they, them pronouns.
I'm Chris. I use he, they pronouns.
I'm a woman of a trans experience.
I also identify as a transgender woman.
I am a trans woman working as a trans health nurse.
So my name is Elle.
So my name is Diet. My pronouns are he, they, and she.
I've been transitioning for probably about 4 years openly now.